Hey everyone. In this video, we'll be going over how to do an open house, properly, correctly, if that's how you want to phrase it. Um, and doing an open house is not as like simple as you might think. There's a lot that goes into doing it the right way, as I would do it. And a lot of agents are going to have their own ways of doing open houses or preparing for open houses. I'm going to go through the entire process of what I recommend to do, from the start to the finish. So first and foremost, if you're doing an open house, you should be doing it with the intention of getting clients. You shouldn't be doing it, and later on in your career, as you have more listings, as you end up working with a lot more sellers, you might shift into why you're doing open houses. It might be simply because you are, trying to appease the seller. Maybe you didn't get a lot of traction in the first few weeks. Maybe they want you to do an open house. So doing an open house at that stage of the game it can be different than when you're just starting out. But when you're doing an open house, and maybe you're doing one for your first listing, if so, congratulations. Maybe you're doing an open house for another agent as a means to get clients. Either way, or for whatever reason you're doing an open house, I still believe that it should be done in this particular fashion, unless you're doing it again for a particular property for your seller who is requesting it, and you're just, that is something that you talked about prior to listing. That's something that you've already agreed to. So in this particular video, in this situation, we're going to go over, how you should set it up. If you are looking to choose to do an open house, or if an open house has been assigned to you, if you asked to do one and you didn't have any particular one in mind. Also, maybe if this is one of your first listings, you want to watch this video to show how you can do it properly. But yeah, we're going to first get started and essentially how to prepare for an open house. So let's say you didn't have an open house that's assigned to you. Let's say you wanted to choose an open house to do. Well, in Central Jersey, and you'll see this in Garden State as well, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see the section under My Listings, My Office Active Listings. Now, right now, at this point of our video, we have 121 listings to choose from that are currently active on the market in Central Jersey MLS. Guys, that's a lot of listings. There should be no reason why you don't know what open house to do, or have no reason to do an open house. So let's click this, and again, don't always assume that you can do an open house for an agent just because it's an active one. You still want to ask the agent first before you can do it, but this is a good way to sit down at the beginning of your week. I would say at some point on Monday or Tuesday at the latest, you should select an open house to do. New homes get listed sometimes at the beginning of the week, so you might get a fresh one. Also, you should do it at the beginning of the week so that you do have enough time to notify the other agent and have that agent be able to put it and list it on the MLS as an open house, so then it goes to the various sites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, as well as Facebook advertising if that's what that agent does. So you maximize the amount of traffic that you get at the open house. So again, ideally you want to have an open house selected by Monday. Tuesday's okay too. If you're doing it later on in the week, that can be fine as well. But if you're trying to optimize the amount of traffic that you'll get at the open house and doing it correctly, you should have it done by Tuesday. But again, doing it by Thursday and Friday, might not make that big of a difference. But if we're trying to do it the right way, that's what I recommend. So you can go through this list, and it starts with the, it actually has, I don't know how it has set up, but if you scroll through these properties, you should be able to find, one property that you like. It probably has it separated by agents, and maybe we can see that by going here. So this one belongs to Elvin, Maria, Orlando. So no, not necessarily. But you can scroll through this list and see. Guys, I would recommend, if you're looking at an open house for yourself to do, try and look at the ones that are new to market first. So anything with like 4 days, 7 days, Anything less than 30 is immediately going to be like something that is going to have higher traffic to it. Usually get the most traffic in your listing within the first 30 days, or at least like the highest volume of traffic, as long as it's priced appropriately, which goes to the next thing. So if you're not interested in doing any particular property that's brand new to the market, let's say you're looking specifically to do it in an area. Let's just say you wanted to look at a property in Old Bridge. You could scroll through these pages or look at how long these properties been on the market. So if new to the market is not available in the area that you want to do, your second best bet is going to be looking at like the property that's been on the market for a little while but just had a price reduction. So hopefully, if the property's been on the market longer than 30 or 60 days, that they just had a price reduction to bring it down to the value that it should be selling for. We can go ahead and select one of the listings that we've been going back to. This actually just came back on the market. It's a listing that I had that we usually reference, and that fell through just because the inspection, there was inspection issues. I'm actually planning on doing an open house for this property in the next few weeks or so. Our initial offer that we ended up getting on the property was pretty close to asking price, so we didn't need a price reduction right now. But before we do another open house, I'll probably wait for a price reduction, or before I ask for a price reduction, until after the holidays, since this is being shot currently at the beginning of the second week of December. So you probably don't want to do a price reduction right before the holidays, just because the traffic's going to be less on those listings anyway. But I'm just going to assume that this is like the property I'd want to do an open house for. Now, selecting an open house, if you're familiar with it, you're not sure, how long. Let's say the property is brand new on the market, or it's been on the market for a little while and hasn't had a price reduction, or even if it has had a price reduction, you definitely want to go through the property and make sure that it is, correctly priced. Like, guys, you don't want to be wasting your time on these open houses. Again, you should be doing these open houses in order to get clients. So if you're doing an open house for a property that is way overpriced or that is not priced appropriately, the chances of getting a lot of traffic to that property will be less. I mean, unless the property's priced decently for the development, but the condition of the property is not up to par, you probably won't be getting much traffic if the property is just priced way too high. So selecting up an area or a property that you want to do an open house for first is crucial. But then take it to the next step and comp out the property. Make sure that the property is priced appropriately. You can't always be 100% with comping a property. A lot of these agents do believe that they're putting the property up for at least pretty close to what it's going to sell for. But until you put it on the market and until it's market tested, you really don't know what's going to happen. You can have a really good certainty that you're going to put a property on the market, it's going to go to multiple offers, it's going to sell within a week. You can know that in your heart, and then it could still not end up happening, for whatever reason. For there could be a whole myriad of reasons why that doesn't happen. So first is selecting an open house or having that open house assigned to you, and just proper open house etiquette. If you're not personally looking for a property and somebody says, hey, do you want to do this property? You say, yes, I'll do it. And then they give it to you. And then you comp out the property later and you say, this property is a little a bit overpriced. I don't want to do this open house. That's too bad. You already said yes to doing the open house. You should have asked what the property was first. You should have said something along the lines of are you considering a price reduction? How long has the property been on the market? Do you believe the property is priced appropriately? And then still ask, can I preview the property before saying yes to this? Is a perfectly valid excuse for not saying yes right away, and something you should be doing anyway. And that goes to my next step of, once you do select a property and you do comp it out and you say okay, this property is priced appropriately, or let's say you didn't have time to comp it, let's say it's new to the market, let's say you're just trusting that agent, regardless of if you preview it first or comp it first, I recommend comping at first, just because if you find out that the property is like wildly overpriced and they're not looking to do a price reduction, this next step might not matter. But let's say you're looking at one of these properties, and you say like, okay, this is the property I want to do an open house for. At least this is the property I think I want to do an open house for. If this wasn't my listing, I would call up the listing agent. I'd ask like, hi, Jason, like, I see that you have this property in Edison. It's about a price point that like I was interested in, and that I want to be able to service clients in this area. Do you mind if I do an open house for you this weekend? And or say, would your property would your clients be okay with doing an open house this weekend? Are you looking for somebody to do an open house this weekend? Like, great, yes, okay, perfect. So yes, I'm going to assume that that it's all fine. I'm going to say yes, I want to do this open house, and then we're going to go and preview the property. So that goes to the next step of actually previewing the property, making sure that you know the property inside and out. Because after you preview the property, and let's say if you do know this style of home well, if you do know this area well, you might not need to preview the property, but I still recommend going there before the open house anyway, just so you can ask the listing agent questions, maybe ask the homeowners questions, just show a little bit more initiative, because and we're going to get into it, when you're actually in front of clients for the first time during an open house, you have a very small window of actually making a good first impression. And being knowledgeable is one of the first things that can actually secure you a client over another agent. And if you're opening doors that you're not really sure where you're going into for the open house, or if you're opening saying that this is a half bathroom, ends up being a closet because you just you thought that that's where it was. If you don't know the house and you're showing it, people can tell. And if they're not seeing multiple houses with you on appointments, fumbling through a house, especially one that you're stationed in, like an open house where they expect that you are going to be very proficient in, it's just a bad look. It's a bad look. So I definitely recommend previewing the property unless it's your own listing. And even if it is your own listing, go to the house early, make sure the property's clean, make sure it's still showing well since you've last been there, and go through that whole process. Okay, so we went over, previewing the property, definitely an important step. Comping the property, that's great too. This is going to be an additional step for you rookies out there, or even if you're just new to a specific market, even if you're a veteran agent, especially if you're a veteran agent, you would do something like this if you're really trying to maximize an open house. And that is, finding the comparable properties in the area, if there are any, that are actually active on the market. So we're not comping the property. We want to see what our competition is. We can go even as far as 0.5 miles. Because when you're going to an open house and when you're holding an open house, some people might not like the house that you're looking to show them. So one of the best things you can do to set an appointment on the spot is, if they don't like the house for whatever reason, let's say they say, oh, these bedrooms are too small, or oh, this kitchen's too outdated, or oh, I'd like an extra bathroom and whatnot. If you know properties and they are looking for properties in this town, you want to look like you're the most knowledgeable person in this entire town. So you're doing an open house, they say these specific criteria, maybe they don't like the house, because most people that walk through the door are not going to be the ones purchasing that house. It's just statistically, even if you got a great property, somebody's always going to say, this property is not for me. And you can look at it two ways. You can either be like, I just want to only work with the people that would be interested in this property. One, I think that's an incredibly bad strategy. That's a losing strategy, because if you're just looking to do that, you're essentially just buying a lottery ticket, because most people that walk through the door are not going to be the ones to buy the property. They're going to have another agent being brought to them. Maybe they'll seek you out. Maybe they'll seek the listing agent out to see the property privately. But most people going through the open house are not going to submit an offer that's going to be the winning bid for the property. So we just look at what's active within 0.5 miles, and I just want to stay within like this price point. Let's just say 375 to 450. Like, will give us like pretty accurate results. So there's only 2 properties in this area. But let's say there was more properties on the market. Let's say there's like 3 or 4 in this area. Maybe you want to expand the search so you know you're at the height of the price point in this particular market. So maybe you want to go down in price. Or maybe you want to start looking at other towns as well where they'll be able to find stuff. But since 400,000 seems to be the max within this 0.5 miles, yeah, so we have at least 3 other properties we could see between 300 and 400,000. So if somebody says like, hey, listen, I like this house, but it's really a little too high out of my budget, you'll at least have other properties to show them. And if you have the time and if you're not experienced in this area, while you're previewing the open house, set up these other properties too. Like see everything that you can, like see 3 to 4 different homes that you could potentially flip them. If it's close to another town, maybe you want to expand your search to that town. But as you're getting started in this business, as you're trying to learn towns, and let's say you don't have a ton of clients right now, you have to treat every client like gold. And you have to assume that anytime you get a client, that you have to treat them with the utmost respect, but also try and come off as knowledgeable as possible. So if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, listen, I'm looking to purchase in Edison, after you qualify them, get their price point and whatnot, you should be comfortable in telling them like what you do know about Edison or what you do know about those other towns that they're interested in. If you're doing an open house in a specific town, most of the time somebody already knows a little bit about that town. They're researching it themselves. They know about that town. So you don't want to know less than them. Otherwise, like why would somebody, agree to work with you if they think that they know more than you do? So don't be that agent, or at least try not to be. It happens from time to time. You're always going to run into somebody that knows more than you. But you should know like the housing market as well as possible. Somebody that's been looking on the market for a year or 2 years might have like more knowledge than a lot of agents that don't necessarily like work in this town like that often, or that particular town that often. So preview the properties that are comparable to this particular property to get a better understanding of the market, better understanding of what they can get for their money. Comping the property and then previewing these properties, it should give you like a really good base. Like you should feel at least somewhat confident in yourself after going and doing that. Then after, we previewed the property, let's say it's like around, Thursday or like Wednesday at this point, like Monday you chose the open house, Tuesday you set up some appointments, like you previewed like, by Wednesday, Wednesday's rolled around. We can always go to the Max Center. And when you're ready, you can, fill out this open house form. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. And on the open house form in the First Realty Center, you can put in your email address, the property address, MLS number, date of the open house, start time, end time, price, hosted by, your phone number, and then we have the cutoff is Thursday at 5 p.m. So, like, if you do this, they'll email you all like the marketing material, like information that you can then post to Facebook. So they'll send you like a PDF with all this information. The only thing that I believe they don't send you is a sign-in sheet, which I will have a sign-in sheet, and the sign-in sheet that I use most often linked somewhere, whether it's below this video or it's somewhere else in the First Realty Center Agent Academy. It'll be abundantly clear to you once we have all that worked out. But this is for your marketing material. This is so that it displays in the MLS and whatnot. So make sure you have that filled out as the next step. We're then going to get into, so you have your marketing material. You want to print all that stuff out once they send it to you. You're most likely going to have it sent to you by Friday. Most people hold an open house on Sunday. Some people do it Saturday, but most of the time it's Sunday. Make sure you have all your information printed out. You want a sign-in sheet that'll be linked. You want your open house material. So it's going to be like the listing sheet, listing flyer with your face on it, with the information and some details about the property. Again, you guys already know from the previous videos how to print out stuff, how to like print out MLS sheets, like in the client full MLS sheets if you want to bring extra of those. to give to your clients as well. I would also bring like a full MLS sheet just for you to hold and make sure you read over it, know how to answer it. Like, I know it's okay if you're walking through a property with a client, they ask you how much the taxes are and you don't know it off the top of your head because that's the third property you've been to. But if you're doing an open house, know the taxes. Try not to reference the listing sheet. Like, it just makes you look like you're not aware of what's going on, and you only have one property to worry about that day, other than like the other ones that you should have in the back of your mind, just in case you need to pull them out. Like, oh, you don't like this bedroom size? Having previewed the other properties in the area, if there is a property that might have a little bit bigger of bedroom sizes, you can be like, have you checked out 123 Main Street? Because that one's priced a little bit higher, about $10,000, but they have bigger bedrooms. So if you're looking to up your budget about $10,000, we can get you in a property that does have a larger square footage. Would you like to see that property after I'm done this open house, say 4:30? Something like that. Just always be ready to set the appointment. Because if you're not setting the appointment while people are at an open house, getting back in touch with them can be kind of difficult because you have to have some value to bring to them. I like having information to be able to give to the client, but I like withholding some information that I then say like, oh, I'll email to you later. Like, if there's a seller's disclosure for the property, I might just bring one for my own reference, but if somebody asks for it, I'm going to email it to them later. I always say I'll email it to you later, just as another way to be able to get their contact information and for me to call them and follow up with them about sending something. The next step is like, we're going to assume it's game day. It's Sunday. You have all your, open house information. You have the flyer. You have the sign-in sheet and whatnot. Now you're there. You have your signs for the open house. If you don't have open house signs yourself yet, make sure you have them ordered. You can talk to our admin staff. They can help you through that process. If you don't have open house signs and they're in the mail or something like that, sometimes we have some extra signs that you can use. So make sure, again, you ask our admin staff if we have any lying around, and we should be able to get to you. If not, like, ask the listing agent if they have some open house signs. But, you definitely want a minimum of, 3 to 5 signs. I like 5 signs personally. You can get away with 3, but I would take 5. So it's game day. First and foremost, dress for success. I see agents all the time, like, do an open house in jeans and like maybe like a button down or something like that. I think that that's the wrong way to go about it. Like, as you get more experience, as you like have more experience in real estate and in sales, your clothing matters less, but you only have a short window to be able to win people over and prove that you're a professional. And the better that you dress and the better you look and the more professional you look, the easier it is for you. So definitely, if you're lacking in experience, or especially if you're lacking in knowledge, dress appropriately. Dress better than you do have experience for. Because like when somebody walks in, they're going to say, "Oh, that person looks sharp. He or she is wearing like the appropriate clothing." They already look at you as like the figurehead for this open house, and that's crucial. Especially, and that'll give you a little bit more leeway if you don't know something. If you get stumped by some of their questions. That's okay. Just always say, listen, that's a great question. I'm going to ask the homeowners and I'll get back to you. And whether or not you're asking the listing agent or you're looking it up on the MLS later, make sure you do that. But to go back to it, back to a previous point, I'm going to reiterate this like again and again. Look at the MLS sheet, research the property, know everything that you can about the property so that you don't, you don't mess up while you're on the appointment. So dress for success, so that should be before you even leave the house. You should be dressed to kill and to sell. After that, make sure that you show up early. I'm a big proponent of showing up early. Don't get to the property 15 minutes before the open house. You're already losing at that point, in my opinion, because like then you're trying to rush to get ready. You're flustered. You're not in the right headspace. You probably just want the open house to be over before it even begins. And if you want the open house to be over before it begins, you're not going to be, efficiently selling to anybody or comfortable in getting those people and taking them as clients. So show up early. I like to show up at least an hour and a half to an hour early before the appointment. If I know the area I could show up as little as maybe 45 minutes, but I like to get there. If you haven't put up signs yet, 45 minutes is actually way too late. If you're putting up signs on like a Friday or Saturday, the night before an open house, even you can show up a little bit later. But make sure that if you still have to put signs out, you want to show up a minimum an hour before the property. So you're dressed for success. You put all your stuff down in the open house. Now it's time to put up signs. How do we put up signs? It should be pretty intuitive. If you have 5 signs, you want to put them like on some of like the main roads that direct you to the house. I always say that it's better to work backwards. So start at the house and put the sign, and you should be taking your car and putting the signs in reverse back to the main roads. Don't start on the main road and then try and put signs along the way to the house. I think that it's always better if you start with the house and work your way backwards. Then you have a clearer picture in your mind of how that person is going to get there. And if you can understand how to get to the house, most likely they will too. So make sure you have, like, if there's one main street, put one there. If there's 2 main streets and the house is in between them, maybe have a few more extra open house signs to direct them to the property. Any turns and whatnot, it helps to have a sign direct you down those paths. Most people are working with GPS, but again, some people think if they don't see signs that maybe the open house isn't going on. So it's just like a further, it gets them excited again. They know as they're driving up to it, the open house is actually going on. And like alleviating any doubt and concerns and anxiety for somebody as they're walking up to the door is crucial for them to feel relaxed enough to stay and talk with you. So again, it's not just like, oh, like, why do we need open house signs? Like, the people know how to get to these properties. That's not the point. The point is they should be relaxed and they should be confident in themselves going into the property. You should be then confident that people aren't like, oh, where are your signs? Or like, oh, like I didn't know how to get here or anything like that. You want everybody relaxed so that you can focus on getting information from them that's going to help you sell to them in the future. Okay, so you have your sign set up. Hopefully it's like a half hour to 45 minutes before the open house actually starts. This way you can make sure that all the lights are turned on. At this point, you can place your sign-in sheet. I always like to put it in the kitchen. People spend most time in the kitchen. So placing it there is a room that someone's always, or most people are always going to end up in. You might have somebody that doesn't like the property that much, but most people are going to at least check out the first floor. So if you put it on the second floor somewhere, that doesn't make any sense. Like, people aren't going to spend that much time in the bedrooms unless it's the master bedroom. And even then, it's like, if they don't love the first floor of the house and they decide to walk out, then you never even got their information. That was just a waste. Because again, you're not hoping that they like this house. You're hoping that they like you and that they feel comfortable with working with you in the future, and that you've built up enough rapport with them along the way to, then take them on as a client. So keep it in the kitchen. People are always going to be curious enough to check out the kitchen, or at least 90% of the time, maybe even a little bit higher. Let's put it in the kitchen. Then this goes to the next step. So you have all the lights on. Make sure you turn all the lights on. You have the open house sign-in sheet in the kitchen. You can have a few flyers on you. I like to keep the flyers in the kitchen as well, just to be able to say, okay, you can pick up a flyer after you sign in. But the next step is to figure out the flow of the open house and how you want it actually set up. I particularly like starting downstairs. If there's a basement, I like to go to the basement first, because I think the basement usually shows the least well. It's usually darker, dingier in the basements. You have some nice basements for sure, but even if you have a house with a really, really nice basement, they probably have a nice first and second floor as well. So I like to try and show them the worst part of the house first, to then show them the rest of the house, so that they're not rushing through the last part. So as they're seeing the best parts of the property, I'm at least engaged with them enough to, qualify them and get their information. So the first interactions with somebody can also be kind of difficult and a little bit awkward, and most people aren't going to remember that part if you have a good experience with them, at least at some point during your interaction with them. So starting with the basement, starting with the worst part of the house is best to be able to actually like, break the ice with people. Like, even if you have a bad experience in the basement, like, you still have the best parts of the house to go for it. You're not showing the best parts of the house with them while you're still not really engaged with them, while you haven't built up enough rapport with them yet. So get that down first. Get the basement done first if you can. Just say, hi, like, my name is Jason Rivera with Remax. I'm here hosting the open house today. Thank you so much. We have a sign-in sheet in the kitchen as well as open house flyers, and we're going to get to that in a moment. I'd like to first take you downstairs to the basement, and then we can see the first floor of the house. I'll show you around, and then we'll end on the second floor. You can come back down to the first floor. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me along the way. And then I go into like breaking down like what brings you here today, like, when are you looking to move? Do you have a home to sell first? And I'll attach additional information on how to actually qualify somebody. But just first, get the flow down for the house and get the showing. You can always move it around a little bit. If the property doesn't have a basement, obviously there's no basement to show. Maybe just whatever you can do to actually control the property. Just say, like, even if something sounds like completely like obvious, saying it to them establishes the rules for the open house. So if you have somebody that, even if you're like, I'm going to show you the living room first, then we're going to loop around to the dining room, cut through the kitchen. I'll show you the half bathroom on the first floor. Go upstairs. We're going to see all the bedrooms, the master bathroom suite, and the hallway bathroom as well. And then if you have any questions, you can let me know, and I'll walk you through this whole process. Even if they think in their mind, like, oh, like, obviously that's how we're going to do it, you're establishing rules to them, and then you're telling them how it's going to be. So they're not just walking through the house and like completely getting ahead of you. If you have clients that are, leading you through the house, it's going to be very hard to get them as clients, because like you got to establish the dominant salesperson role as like helping them through this process. And if they're running through the house without you, like that's very hard to do. So going into like qualifying clients, at this point you should already have some literature on how to qualify people, but you just basically want all the information that you would need to be able to set them up with automatic searches and search for properties for them, as well as be able to give them helpful advice on if they're looking or asking for properties in a specific price range that doesn't really make sense. You can tell them that, or if they say something like, oh, I have a property to sell first, you should then try and push an appointment to see that property, to, if they haven't already listed it, to find out what valuation they need for that house as well. But yeah, qualifying people, like asking the right questions, like we'll provide more literature with that. That'll be somewhere where like the sign-in sheet is as well. So hopefully you qualify the people, you're talking with them, gaining rapport. At this point, you should have them sign in. You have everybody sign in on the sign-in sheet, so you have their information. Have them fill it out in full so that they have it. And then, hopefully you built up enough rapport during that. Hopefully you asked them questions. They like the idea of working with you, at least. If they have anything that they want you to send them, or if they ask questions you didn't know the answer to, that you'd say, you know what, I don't know the answers to that one. I will get back to you. I'll email you later tonight with all the appropriate responses. That's at least, better than lying to them and them knowing that you probably gave them wrong information that they could easily look up themselves. If you establish that you're going to make a connection with them later on in the future, at least they know that you intend to call them, and that's when you can do follow-up and whatnot. So get all their information, write down notes, on the back of their sign-in sheet. I like to use individual sign-in sheets for every person. So after they leave the property, maybe make a few quick notes about that person that you can follow back up with them later. And essentially just, go through the open house. Once the open house is over, turn all the lights off, collect your signs, lock the door, that whole thing, like make sure you clean up. The next step is feedback and follow-up. It's always proper etiquette in this business you're doing an open house for somebody, thank them for letting you do the open house, and then provide them, feedback with how many people attended the open house rather, what their thoughts were, give a general idea of how the showings went, like how again, like what people seem to say about it. Did they like the house? Did they not like the house? Were there certain aspects that they wished were different with the house? Like that type of thing. Make sure you email or text over or give a call to that agent to let them know. They're going to be asking you anyway. If you do provide them feedback without you asking, that agent is going to like you a whole lot more, because most agents don't do that. And they're going to be glad every time you ask to do an open house, and maybe they'll even recommend a really good one to you first before they ask somebody else, which is just, which if you build that rapport with an agent, especially a big listing agent, that's incredible. After that, you should have your open house sign-in sheet. I always think that it's best to follow up with people that stop by the open house that evening. So Sunday evening, job's not done, I would give them a call, everybody on the list that you have. If they needed something, give them a call and say like, hey, listen, I just want to make sure that this is your name and email address. Even if you believe that their name and email address is correct on the sign-in sheet, call anyway, just establish that connection. Say, hey, I'm still working. I'm willing. I'm going to get you everything you need in the next hour or so. I just wanted to reiterate that this is the proper information, and then to also say that I will be in contact with you. That way, it's just like if you just send them an email, like they might never respond to you. They still might never respond to you. But if you get them on the phone and you call them that Sunday evening or Monday morning, just to say like, hey, listen, like I didn't forget. Like I told you I'd get you information. I'm still going to do it. I just wanted to verify, like they will respect you more and have a much higher chance of when you do email them over information, they'll actually respond to you. And even if they don't respond via email, then when you follow up later on the week, that wasn't the first time you tried to call them. That'll be like the second time, be like, hey, just wanted to make sure you got my email. Like if they gave you their criteria and they wanted you to send them properties, definitely give them a call on that Sunday and say like, hey, I'm setting you up with emails now. Just send me a text or give me a call or respond to the email when I know that once you get it, so that I know that you've been receiving these emails. Just get them engaged however you can. And then when you're following up with them later, be like, hey, listen, like, did you like any of the properties that I sent over to you? Would you like to see any of these properties? And most of the time, if they're interested in working with you, they're going to respond to your emails in that fashion. But this is for like if they don't respond to you right away and you have to be a little bit more in your face about it, calling them and making sure that they've gotten your emails, or just say, hey, listen, I know you didn't respond to the emails that I sent. Just want to make sure that I got your criteria right. And did you like any of those properties? Did you not like? The more feedback you give me, the better I'm able to assist you. So that whole thing. And that's essentially how you do the open house. It doesn't start on Sunday when you're holding the open house. It starts the Monday before. And it doesn't end until really the Monday after, the Wednesday after, when you're done following up. So you should be following up on Sunday, following back up on Monday for the people that didn't respond on Sunday, and then picking your next open house on that same day on Monday and doing the whole thing over. And that's how you get clients. And that's how you get clients, especially when starting in the business, when you don't have your own listing to do an open house for. Or maybe this is your only listing and that's the one you're doing an open house for. Or maybe you just don't have a listing or that many clients and you're doing open houses to be able to get clients from another agent. But that's the most dynamic way to do an open house. The follow-up, the showing up early, the comping out the properties, the previewing the properties, all of this comes together to give you the highest chance of actually not selling the property you're doing an open house for, because that just happens randomly sometimes, it seems like, but actually creating a system to obtain new clients and having new clients work with you. And if you have any questions, you should have my contact information, and just reach out to me. I will go over sales training with you anytime you need it, and I'll give you more information if you need it as well. But just, let me know. Thanks.